more table space.
Yeah, we need something in between the size of this one and that 4-footer. That's what we need. We need the one that fell off the back of the truck that was stolen off the back of the truck. Let's see what I can find. Or make.
Okay, we're up and running.
Up and running. Welcome everybody. This is Monday, February 10th. In the erroneous time scale currently used on planet Earth, it's the year 2020. And yes, my duty to inform you, you are still on Earth. So welcome to Toltec Discussions with Golden Eagle. That's me, your host. I'll do those later. I have a couple of announcements later. Don't let me forget, poor favorite. So how's everybody doing? Everybody good?
Bitch and groovy.
Excellent.
Groovy, excellent, cool.
I'm hanging 10.
You're hanging 10.
Nice.
But do you know what that means?
Yeah, on a surfboard.
Yeah, what does it mean on the surfboard?
That you're standing up and hanging on.
You got 10 toes over the edge.
Yeah.
Okay, alright.
There's a really funny meme of this dog chasing a cat, and they run towards the swimming pool, and there's a surfboard in there, and the cat jumps on, and it's enough propulsion that it shoves it across, and it gets off on the other side and turns around and looks at the dog, and the dog's just sitting there going, what the hell?
I love to see that.
It's just like too
You gotta wonder, in a case like that, how the cat actually learned that.
Right, yeah.
It's like, did you see the one I reposted a week or more ago about a dog running up the hill with one of those plastic sleds in its mouth?
Yeah.
And then it gets to the top of the hill, throws the sled on, and jumps on and rides all the way down, right? So the dog knows how to go sledding, and he likes it.
How funny.
Yeah, I mean, that keeps your dog entertained all day. So, I know what I want to say tonight, but I don't know how I want to start.
Any questions from anyone?
Yeah, is there any questions in the studio audience? We'll start with any theoretical, hypothetical questions online too. If you're online and on time, we'll talk about being on time later, then please, if you have a question, ask. Okay, just start. All right. So, we've been talking about mastering your tonal, the world, your holographic projection, and we've been talking about consciousness. I occasionally talk about consciousness, don't I? It's not the first time you've heard me say that word. If it is, you get what's the opposite of a ding?
A gong.
What's ding backwards? Ging? A ging?
A gnid? Yeah. No, if you claim you've listened to me more than once, and you claim to have never heard me say the word consciousness, then because you obviously missed something that day.
You missed a lot of things.
That year, yeah. So, we're going to be talking about, as we spiral up, the next higher version. So you've heard about consciousness and a lot of the basics over the years of attention and intent and things of that nature. And we've practiced and we've taught meditations, we've taught how to tune into the etheric and how to tune into the astral, and then what to start doing with that kind of knowledge. And some of you at the more advanced levels, like a level 4, there's higher techniques, which I dare not say in public. So what's the higher spiral? We've gone around a couple of times through this material, each time a little higher spiral. So what's the next layer up? What's the next level? And it has to do with the level of detail. Okay, we're into the fine-tuning part. The basics you should have. Now it's like There's detail, and it's sort of like you learn to juggle, you know. First, if you're like me, you start out juggling one thing at a time. I'll sell you one.
Yeah.
I'll rent it to you. How's that?
Okay, you're right. Thank you.
So I've gotten this one down. I'm pretty good at this juggling one thing.
Try it with your other hand.
See, I'm right-handed.
I was waiting for the joke. There it is.
Yeah. No, I was serious. It took me 3 tries to get that down. I never thought of doing it with my left hand. So there's obviously more complicated layers of juggling than just one thing at a time. There's 2 things. And then 3 and 4 and 18 and so forth. So this is akin, doing this next spiral up on consciousness work is akin to learning to juggle more than 3 things, let's say. You know, it's like when I go to the store, usually, if I'm getting one thing, I don't need a list. If I'm getting 2 things, I don't need a list. 3 or more, I need a list. Except today. I went to the store to get 4 things.
No list?
And no list, and I was 100% successful.
Wow.
And I didn't get anything extra either. I went and got the 4 things I was after, and I came home, and that was it.
You passed the test.
Yeah.
I had to quiz him before he left, though.
You didn't have to beat him, right?
Oh, and even on the way out the door, she added on one more thing. There was 3 things. I got these, right? Then
So
on the
she
way,
threw in a bonus
she added on one more thing, and I still passed.
without writing it down. That's impressive.
Without writing it down. No written list. I actually paid attention and remembered.
You used your higher consciousness
I
to
did.
remember it.
I did. So what this involves, this higher level of detail, and we're going to be talking, can you go to this camera for just a few seconds?
Try.
You there?
I'm there.
Okay, so this picture is one that I hope some of you recognize. Do you know what that is?
Tree of life.
The Tree of Life. Which version?
Yours.
No. People are going to start getting it on this higher spiral, not just the dings.
It's background field of the universe.
Yes, that's a 1 ding answer.
Wow.
But which version of the Tree of Life?
Well, it's
It's obviously the Norse Tree of Life, right?
no.
Well, then what is it?
Well, it's the Kabbalah tree of life, but
Ding ding.
I
Only
was
2.
going for something more specific
I
than
think
that.
you would go
It's
for
the Kabbalah Tree of Life. Okay? Because there are others that I have told you about, and I want to make it clear. This is the Kabbalah Tree of Life. I haven't shown it for a couple of months. And some of you may have forgotten. Okay, come back to this camera, please. So, using the Kabbalistic Tree of Life as the crude map, this is the one zoomed out to the level of a continent, if you're doing Google Map comparisons. Now we've got to zoom in, and we're talking how to get from 4th Street to 19th Avenue. Right? We need more detail than that. That gets you in the right ballpark. Now we're getting down to the level of which blade of grass. That makes sense? Okay. Say, who's online?
Who's on first?
Yeah, exactly. I was where I was
What's
going.
on second, or is it who
Yeah.
on third?
I don't know who's on 3rd.
Oh, I don't
I
know.
just did something weird.
Who's on 1st?
Hold on, I messed up here.
Okay.
Then where's what?
What's on 2nd?
Oh, what's on second?
Okay, so Muad'Dib,
Muad'Dib.
Maria Baladi,
Maria.
Pamela Chapel,
Pamela, thank you for coming back. Well, you're here like a regular. It's almost like you're one of us now.
Dennis Brown,
Dennis
Dennis.
Brown, same to you, Dennis. You're one of us practically.
Melody and Boys.
Melody and boys.
Hey boys.
Hey boys. Hey Stellinator.
They must be getting so big.
Hey Squirminator. Anybody else?
George G.
George G.
George.
I honor you.
Okay, that's where we're at. And Moadib wants a ding for the fact that she got Kabbalistic when you asked about the type of tree it was.
Did she type it in?
She did.
Okay.
And she had the right spelling.
And she had the right spelling. Oh, that's a ding, ding, ding. So it was the spelling with the K
Well, it was
or
with
the
the
Q? It was with the Q. That's fine. If it was the C, that's the wrong one. That's the watered down version we don't use. K or C, I would have accepted. Okay, so what we're talking about is the level of detail and what this requires you to do. That's you, and you, and you, is you have to start making a map of your consciousness. You know, if the tree of life that I just showed you a second ago is the top level flow chart of the computer program, where it says start, stuff, and finish, we need to expand the little box that says stuff. And the way you do that is if you're investigating how something works, this is kind of from the world of science and engineering. I know, I'm sorry, but this is your mental sphere training, and the mental sphere is which one on the tree?
What?
The middle-
Yes! Ding, ding, ding! Hod. The sphere of Hod is the mental sphere, the mental plane.
Good job.
You got 3 dings and a thumbs up.
Yay!
So the sphere of Hod, the mental sphere. In this most of the people in the school have needed work there over the last few years, and you're doing it. And I'm seeing progress, and I'm proud of you all who are progressing.
Thank you.
So the way you do this kind of experiment from the engineering point of view is you change the inputs and you measure the output. Because there's a box, almost like this black box we have here, and you don't know what's in it. What happens if I do this? And then you measure the output. Well, now let's do that, and you measure the output. And when you measure this, what's one of the hallmarks of the scientific method? Besides measurement?
Experimentation?
Well, this whole thing is how do you do an experiment, right? So
Results.
say,
Results.
and how do you know what the results are tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
Like
You do an
computer-
experiment today, how do you know what the results were tomorrow?
Oh, you write it down.
Ding, ding, ding. Oh, she's on a roll tonight. You write it down. You document your results. You don't rely on the gray matter. And the gray matter is linked to the holographic memory field. Because to get it firmly into your holographic memory field requires what?
Consciousness.
No.
You write it down because that's
You write it down.
That
But if
that gets it into your nervous system.
right, so forget writing it down. We're moving on.
Okay.
If you want to remember something and you don't write it down, let's say you don't have a pencil or a pen or a clay tablet and a stylus, what do you do to memorize something?
You concentrate on it.
You concentrate on it, and then what do you do with it?
I don't know where you're going.
Repetition.
I was going to say that.
You don't get a ding for that, with what you were going to say. It's repetition. You have to practice it over and over. And it takes a certain number of iterations. I think it's a minimum of 6 to get it from short-term memory into long-term memory.
That's what you did with the note.
Yeah.
I mean the shopping list.
Yeah. I went over it many times in my head between the house and getting in the truck. So you need repetition. And if you've only got, do an experiment once, you don't know ahead of time if your result is going to be the same. Right? Because if you repeat this experiment exactly and the result is different, and then you repeat it exactly again and it's different yet again, that basically means there's variables affecting the system that you have not yet identified and controlled for. So the only way you figure that out is by writing it down. The documentation is critical. When I was in the space business training young rocket scientists, I had a lot of head plant, face plant moments trying to teach these young kids to be diligent. Well, we don't have time to be diligent. We're in a hurry. We gotta, no. If you're going to plug this thing into my $500 million satellite, you're going to be diligent and you're going to do it the right way. And they had to because I was the boss, right? I was the manager. You know, I was the one single person, the last authority over what happened to that $500 million satellite before we launched it.
Well, how would you repeat that launch of another $5 million satellite unless you write it down
Exactly.
and
Well,
document it?
you got it. You move up one step on the rocket science scale. That's good. Rocket science scale. Write that down for me. Anyway, I had to train a lot of people, and it's like, okay, Science 101, how many variables do you change at a time?
One.
Well, one, ding, ding, ding. One, she got it. And these kids were out there trying to change 14 things at once, and they didn't get the answer they wanted, so then you changed 18 other things and didn't get the answer, and I'm like, it's one of those fingernails on the chalkboard moments when you're, So anyway, that's what you have to start doing. Every one of you, this is what I'm going to be recommending to everybody watching, and if you're a formal student, I'm going to be requiring this. So you have to figure out your input-output correspondences. And you have to start documenting them in detail. So this is a cross between scientific method and spiritual understanding and basic psychology. This is going to permit you to master the control of your own hot buttons. Your hot buttons are what I care about first. We want those to no longer be hot buttons. We want them no longer provoking your higher emotional centrum because of a knee-jerk reaction of your lower animal centrum, which is a mechanical knee-jerk reaction of your physical machine. So you need to start taking notes on observing yourself, your moods, your activities, your random thoughts, your downloads, if you're meditating, who you connect with.
Visions and dreams.
Visions and dreams are still at the top of the list. And you write this stuff down because you can't go back and find out how your mind is working and how your wiring is configured unless you write it down.
So we're basically stalking ourselves.
You're a good term. Stalking yourself. And what we're going for is repeatability.
Stalking the mind.
You're stalking your mind. You're stalking your program. The program is influenced before you are born. You came in with knowledge base from your previous incarnations. There's a database there. Most people don't tap into it. They get stuck in the animal mind, the mind of the machine. And so a lot of this consciousness work we do is designed to place the mind of the machine under your conscious control of you and your essence and allow you to tap into that higher mind. Right? That's where we're going. So let's go look at the tree again, please. Gee, do I have any sharp things, pointy objects that I can use as a pointer?
You need to put that closer to you.
No, I'm not moving it now. Down here is the sphere of Malkuth. This represents the physical world. It is called the kingdom. Up here is the sphere of Yesod. That is called the foundation. I'll tell you more about the foundation momentarily. This is the sphere of Hod, the mental sphere. This is, by the way, Yesod is the astral sphere. Somewhere between Yesod and Malkuth is the etheric plane. Some people ascribe the etheric body and plane to the physical world. I'm not one of them. Some people say that Yesod is also the etheric plane and the lower astral. Then they say, oh, there's an upper astral over here, as well as the mental plane. And I don't think it actually matters much, but think of this as the etheric and astral, and think of this as the mental plane, and think of Nitzak over here. Nitzak means victory. Hod means splendor. Think of this as your causal plane. It causes things. And in the creation of your consciousness, creation of the universe, energy comes down from above. It comes from Tiferet into Nitzak, over to Hod, down to Yesod, and down to Malkuth. And all the other side paths get filled in as soon as each sphere appears by the intent that came from above Kether. So what we're talking about today is this. And primarily the three paths down here, also known as, what are these three paths called again? From our quest of self last year?
Rainbow Bridge.
Thank you. Ding, ding, ding. She remembered. You know what? Can you please make a note for me that I want to make a poster like this big enough that it only has this lower portion of the tree.
Oh, okay.
That way I can fill in the pathway information and some of the other factors a little more easily than on one that's showing the whole tree, especially when I'm only going to look at a portion on any given day. So let's look at this path. We have a mental sphere and we have our physical world, and the direct connecting path, this is called in the Hebrew system the path of Shin, which means tooth. And in Tarot, this is the path called judgment, or in the Tarot I'm writing, it's called discernment. Because the old medieval symbolism portrayed this as the last judgment and resurrection, and you're going to be judged for being a sinner and all that kind of malarkey. The concept of the judgment in question here is really more of that internal assessment, that concept of discernment, the feedback loop necessary. Is that too much? Is that not enough? You know, this is the Goldilocks path, right? A little too hot, a little too cold, just right. A little too hard, a little too soft, just right. Remember, everybody remembers Goldilocks and the Three Bears, right? Okay, because you weren't nodding. Nobody was nodding. So this judgment discernment path, the content that you're judging, discerning, is you're using your mind to regulate your physical world. So the data flowing over this path has to do with regulating your physical world from a logical point of view. Now, the world is a big place. The mental plane is even bigger. So what I'm talking about is learning to fill in the details on the path of judgment or discernment.
You mean as relevant to our own life, or?
Yes.
Okay.
By
Exactly.
by documenting things,
Yes.
that's what will
Yeah.
happen.
Right. So, yeah, come back over here for just a minute. We'll do the other paths in a minute. So, right, so in terms of regulating your physical world, you just moved to a great new place. And you went through a feedback process in your old place that was becoming inhospitable. That's all I will say. And so that involved behaviors by your roommates that would be best described and most politely described as unfair.
Mm-hmm.
So you made an assessment that this environment is not conducive to me staying here.
Mm-hmm.
You stood up for your rights. This is not fair. I'm doing exactly what I was asked to do, and they asked you to leave. Right? So you did, and you have a place now that's 10 times better at least. Right?
If not more.
If not more. So you used the path of discernment and that concept of judgment and the concept of a feedback process, and that was a very mental process.
Mm-hmm.
That it was time to leave.
Mm-hmm.
You set your boundaries, that didn't work, so out you go. Now when we get over to the opposite path, the path of the moon, the path of Cope, between Malkuth and Nitzak, we'll talk maybe, if you don't mind, about how you used your intuition
That's
to
cool.
find the new opportunities, right? So this is all aimed at controlling and upgrading your physical world. We're trying to spiral up. We're raising our frequencies. This is how we affect consciousness. We change brainwave frequencies. We change the frequencies of the human collective consciousness field. You know, kind of big picture where we're going. But the way you have to do that is you have to get very detailed on your assessment and your self-assessment. And so whatever you've been doing in terms of self-honesty and self-assessment, I'm suggesting it's time to upgrade all that. Question?
Well, for example, I think I'm getting what you're saying is if you're documenting what's going on or mentally documenting it and really being the witness of what's going on as myself or
Right.
whatnot, then by doing so, you're not going into a lower vibration of, oh, for example, I'm the victim or poor me, and you're using, you're at a higher plane by documenting and willing to change and asking that higher plane to help you.
That's part of it. What you're doing is, if you're going to master your universe, and you're going to be a shaman or a magician or basically a master of your own fate, you have to have as much accurate data as you can get, and you have to learn how to assess whether the data you're getting is accurate, and then you have to throw out anything that isn't. And in terms of, let's say, your living situation, if you had become overly attached to the concept of appeasing roommates who are mistreating you, then you would lower your vibration to fit in.
Right.
And I've said many, many times over the years that when you upgrade, when you change your frequency,
You'll lose friends.
you will lose friends because they don't fit.
Mm-hmm.
Back, comparing this to my aerospace days, I think I can count on, I knew hundreds if not thousands of people. High-end, high-functioning people out there in the physical world But almost universally, I would describe most of them as spiritually unaware. And they were threatened by me doing something as simple as changing careers from a rocket scientist to a natural holistic doctor. If I wanted to go be a conventional medical doctor, they would have thought that was great. Oh, that's kind of weird and woo-woo. I went to the funeral of a very close friend and coworker who had passed away. I think by that time I had graduated medical school and I was running my clinic.
Mm-hmm.
So this was probably 6 years after I had left the aerospace industry. I show up at this funeral and I knew 95% of the people there. And I could count on about 3 fingers the number of people who were willing to talk to me.
Wow.
Right? And there were at least, let's say, 150 people there.
Wow, that's
They
sad.
did. Oh, hi. Oh, yeah, you went and did that weird doctor. Okay. Hey, by the way, I got to go talk to somebody.
You were shunned.
That's fine. If I had any emotional, allowed myself to be, oh, they're shunning me, oh, it would have lowered my vibration.
Mm-hmm.
I simply observed. It's like, okay, cross that name off the list. Oh, cross that name off the list, and on down the list of everybody who was there. There's like 3 people who were willing to talk to me and be friends.
So that allows you to be the witness without judgment and, I mean, just,
Yeah.
you're the observer.
Yeah,
You're running an experiment.
Right. I tend to use the term the observer or the stalker rather than the witness because there's
Yeah.
a lot of spiritual traditions who use that term in ways I don't agree with. That's all I'll say. So I like the term observer
Mm-hmm.
and being the stalker. Like, okay. Is that a comment online I see?
Just so you know, Aaron and Scott have joined us.
Hello.
Aaron and Scott, is that the Scott from Grants Pass?
Yep.
Hi, Scott from Grants Pass. Hey, Aaron.
So Moadib says, I must be tapping into the intent for the discussion because this has all been on my mind. Been having a lot of knee-jerk emotional reactions and feeling like I need to get back in control.
Well, good. Hopefully you'll get a few more practical pieces of how to do that as we progress this evening. So, whether it's a living situation, or a job, or a romantic situation, or the way you eat, the way you exercise, the way you study, the way you do your personal practice, I'm suggesting it's time for more detailed records. Keep a daily food log, an activity log, and it's great to combine that, all of this, with your to-do list for each day. You do have a to-do list each day, right? You plan each week, you plan each month, you plan each day, right? Everybody pretend like you're doing that and smile and nod and say yes and thumbs up, and then make a note to yourself to go home and start doing that tomorrow.
And you have a wife.
Well, I have a wife and we work together because we're like this. And speaking of my to-do list for today, everything's checked off except the discussion and finish my weekly plan and an email I have to write tonight when I'm done with this. So all the other filled in boxes are the things that were on my to-do list today that are complete.
Does it say agree with wife at the end?
No, because there's a lot of times we don't. You know, but we have enough respect for each other that I don't correct her on costume design or sewing or fabric, right? You know, when I come in with my checkered shirt and my striped pants and my plaid tie and I say, does this go? And she says, no, go put on this and this and this. Oh, okay. Like, why would I disagree with a Tony Award winning costume designer?
That's true.
And when it's time for science and math, I never won a Tony Award for being a rocket scientist, but I'm a rocket scientist and a physics professor and a physics author, so why would she argue? Right? We each have our strengths and we mesh very well.
Well, maybe she comes up with a new theory.
If she does, great. Wait, she now gets up in public completely unbidden by me and starts lecturing on quantum physics, and she's 100% correct.
Yay! Ding ding! Ding!
I have even posted on Facebook correctly about the difference between fibers and fabric finishes.
Oh, wow. As long as she likes silk, you're okay.
Yes, but is it what kind of silk?
Well, I don't know. I
'Cause-
would have to get an education from.
okay. So, are you talking about satin?
Oh, silk.
Okay. What's satin?
Satin is something that if you have sheets of satin, you fly off the sheets.
Okay. Do you know why?
No.
Because satin is a fabric finish. You can have silk, satin, cotton, satin, linen. It's the way it's finished. It's not what it's made of.
So it has Pam on it.
Satin doesn't grow on the satin trees.
Okay.
You don't have the satin spiders out there spinning satin fiber. It's the finish. See, I learned. So, despite your vain attempt to create discord between my eternal partner and
Oh, eternal partner, that's sweet.
I, no, we get along great and we
I
respect
know
each
you
other.
do.
So, and I encourage everybody to find a relationship where they get along great and they respect each other. And the first sign that the person, the prospective partner you're interviewing and negotiating with, and it's all an interview and a negotiation, right? First sign that they do anything that doesn't respect you, move on. Tell them to hit the road, Jack. Whatever that song is. You know the
Don't
one.
come back.
Don't, yeah, that one.
No one should wear striped pants.
Right. So there you go. Why would I lie? Except pinstripes on a suit.
Even those railroad pants, remember those? The little
Yeah,
blue
yeah,
and
yeah,
white and the red and white?
The overalls with the blue and white
Yeah,
stripes.
yeah.
And like pinstripes on the, like, let's say, what's that baseball team that's famous for pinstripes? Back east, black and white. Oh, the Yankees. Baseball's not my sport.
I could tell.
Peripherally, you know, I liked it when there was a pitcher named Nolan Ryan, and he is probably arguably the best pitcher in the history of baseball, except for maybe a guy who played 100 years ago named Cy Young. The award they give every year for the best pitcher in baseball each year is called the Cy Young Award. The reason is, you know, over his career, if a pitcher nowadays, it's really rare to win 300 games over the course of a 20-year career. Cy Young won 500.
Oh my goodness.
And nobody will ever break that record. The way they do pitching, he pitched like every other day, and he had an arm, and they wouldn't do that now.
Bionic arm.
Yeah, he was Mr. Bionic. So, anyway, Nolan Ryan is probably, he win close in the high 300s. I don't remember what he finished with. But he had the misfortune of playing on a lot of losing teams, you know, who wouldn't pay for other pitchers. You need like 3 or 4 really good pitchers to win a championship. So I don't think he ever won a championship. But he's in the Hall of Fame because he has more strikeouts than anybody, including Cy Young. So he's a Texas kid, right? He grew up in Texas. He's Mr. Tough Guy, right? And baseball, they call it hardball, right? Because if you start having too much, the pitcher throws at you. To drive you out, you start crowding the plate, meaning you can hit more of the strike zone easily. They'll back you off by throwing at your rear end or throwing at your chest. And if that doesn't work, they throw at your head. And that leads to a lot of fist fights. Mm-hmm. Well, there was a game once upon a time, this is probably 20 years ago now, where Nolan Ryan threw at somebody and hit him. He had hit a home run off somebody, and you know, there's always this banter going back and forth. You don't see this on TV, but they're yelling and insulting and talking trash the whole game. And any little edge, right? Anything you can do to get a little edge. So Nolan Ryan hit the guy with a pitch. And he's one of like maybe 5 pitchers in the history of Major League Baseball since they started using the radar guns to measure the speed of your pitch, who has thrown over 100 miles an hour.
Wow.
And if you hit 90 with your fastball, that's considered good. 95 is like, oh my gosh. And then there's Nolan Ryan.
Yeah,
Over
100
100.
miles an hour at your
Yeah.
head? Wow.
So he hit the guy. I don't think it was in the head. He hit him in the chest or something. And he's going so fast, you don't have time to get out of the way. If he decides to throw it, you're going to get hit. And it's going to leave a bruise probably for at least a week. Because you got this little hard thing hitting you at 100 miles an hour. Right? It's going to hurt. And so if you throw it at Pay and the pitcher, he gets to take the base, right? He's on base, and you get charged with whatever you get charged with in the record books, saying hit by pitch. That's at HBP. And the guy starts walking to first base, but he's so furious he charges the mound,
Oh wow.
and he's gonna beat the holy crap out of Nolan Ryan. And Nolan Ryan was over 40 at this time. This kid was like 25, and he came in there charging. And just like that, Nolan Ryan did what amounted to a martial arts move. He got this guy in a headlock like this, and with his fist, the one that throws the 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, he started doing the pile driver action on the guy's
That's a
head.
wrestling
In
thing.
his face, he gave him a black eye, gave him a bloody nose, gave him a fat lip. He's like 8-10 times before both benches cleared and separated.
Uh-huh.
Right? It's like, and then the guy's just like. So you don't mess with Nolan Ryan. Right. So anyway, that's how did we get on Nolan Ryan?
I don't know, but you've been on it for a while. Pamela said that she saw that fight. And then going back to what you were talking about, which is everybody getting along and all that, Cray is online with us, Crazy,
Welcome, Cray.
and he says, should all get along with and respect everyone.
That would be a great concept. So that's a ding right
What a
there.
concept.
Right.
So where we're going with all this in terms of managing your Malkuth is keeping your records, and I'll have to go back and watch the tape to figure out how we got on that tangent. But you keep records. What triggers you? Just what did you do? How did it feel? Oh, you ate toxic food from toxic fast food restaurant number 5, and you had vomiting and diarrhea the next day. You go, Next week you go back to the same restaurant, eat the same food, you get vomiting and diarrhea the next day. And if you're crazy enough to go back a 3rd time, because it takes some of us 3 times, you get vomiting, diarrhea the 3rd day, and you go, okay, I'm done with Kentucky Fried Chicken. 3 restaurants at 3 different times in 3 different states, and every single time I ate Kentucky Fried Chicken, I had horrible vomiting and diarrhea. I haven't eaten Kentucky Fried Chicken in over 30 years. It was probably closer to 35 now. That was it. Once in my teen years, once in college, and once in my mid-20s. So yeah, that's 35 years ago. You keep records. See, that was less than 3 items, so I remembered. It wasn't in my daily log. I didn't have a daily log back then. I was randomly drifting around the universe. Now, I've got a daily log because I just showed you. So, let's talk about, so the basic concept is you keep detailed records and you give yourself feedback, and it requires total self-honesty. You can't lie to yourself. It fails every time. So let's go over here, back to the other camera, please. Over here is Nitsack. This represents the causal plane. The
Causal meaning?
It causes things.
Okay.
Causal. The al means pertaining to cause.
Okay.
Okay? If you want to break down the etymology of the word. This also is your intuitive mind. This is your logical mind. This is your intuitive mind. The path between your intuitive mind and the physical world is a path called, in the Hebrew system, Koph. Qoph is the way we spell it in English. For those of you who speak and read and write Hebrew, then you go, oh, well, it's Koph, which is just one letter. But we got English, we got to do it the hard way. Instead of being one letter, it's four. So, connecting your physical world and your intuitive mind is a path called Koph, which means, anybody remember? Anybody online? Means the back of the head, which is key to understanding this path.
Isn't that when your animal eye is?
Animal brain, the reptile
Yeah.
brain, not the animal eye. That's back here a ways,
Right.
but that's the reverse, the posterior side
We
of your
can't
third
see
eye.
it.
Oh, you can't see me. Never mind. I'll show it in a minute. This path is in Tarot,
The moon.
the moon. The moon pertains to
Emotion.
intuition and emotion. And this, because of our unique differences between males and females, women do this really well and really naturally. Men like me had to struggle for years to be able to do this.
Doesn't that really affect us? Because the moon affects water and we're, what, 97% water?
No, we're about 70% water, so that's a little off. But
Yeah.
the moon affects us for a lot of reasons, one of which is the tidal effect on our cells. The same tidal effect that affects the ocean and can change the height of the ocean in any given location by 40 or 50 feet in some places, it also affects our cells. So it has a physical effect on our bodies.
I'm just letting you know where the camera is.
Right, it's over here. So this path of intuition, pertains to the reptile brain. Those are the autonomic functions that happen automatically without a conscious mind. You don't need consciousness for your reptile brain to work.
Is that the knee-jerk reaction?
Yeah, exactly. So this is the path by which the lower emotional centrum exerts its influence. So this one, rather than being, we can come back over here. Go in.
So by documenting, you're going to slow that down.
It's not a question of slowing it down, it's a question of recording. So you're going to have the same instant reaction. And then afterwards you just observe, oh, my. Somebody asked a perfectly logical question and I bit their head off, figuratively speaking.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to assess your emotional responses the same way you do your logical responses and your logical planning. And what we're attempting to create is stop, long term, our goal is to stop allowing the animal emotions of your biological machine to do your thinking for you.
Okay.
You want to place that control in the higher emotional centrums associated with the higher bodies and the higher mind. But again, whether it's an emotional response or it's just a very logical Spock-like planning response, what you're doing with this work is you're mapping. This is a process of mapping your consciousness. It's a mapping of your flowchart. If anybody's ever done computer programming or seen a computer program flowchart, you're flowcharting. Your if this, then, if A, then go this way, if B, go this way, or the AND gates, the OR gates, all of that, right? Those are terms from circuit design, they are terms from computer flowcharts, is how I learned all this. And that's how our mind works. And so your job is to start mapping that. So you're going to have a map of your mental processes, your logical mind, Hod to Malkuth flowchart. You're going to create an emotional, intuitive map of your Nitsak to Malkuth link flowchart.
Pamela says Boolean logic.
Boolean logic, yes, exactly right. That is a mathematical term. I took a class in Boolean logic and it made no sense to me.
How do you spell it?
Boolean. And it's a very rigorous way of analyzing problems and situations and circuits. And the people who teach it they're just not human.
So says Mr. Rocket Scientist.
Yeah, Mr. Rocket Scientist Shaman looks at that and goes, WTF? Just do this. And I'd be right, and all the Booleans are over there in the corner coming up with analyses for weeks to come up with the answer I did in 5 seconds. Back in the days when I wasn't intuitive, and by gosh, I'm not going to let anybody know the test said I was intuitive. Myers-Briggs test, for those who don't know the story.
She says denoting a system of algebraic notation used to represent logical propositions, especially in computing and electronics.
Perfect answer. I love that. When I've been watching similar things online, you just flip over to Wikipedia or Google, you type it in, it's like, boom, there's the perfect answer. And I'm over here in front of the camera going, I don't have the dictionary. Thank you, Pamela. So for those unfamiliar with the term, what she said. Ding, ding, ding. Now then, there's 3 paths connecting to Malkuth, right? There's the logical mind path, the intuitive mind path, and what's the other one?
Balance.
Yeah, exactly. It's a path of integration. It's called the world in Tarot, or the universe in some decks, and in the Hebrew system it's called Tau, which is referred to as the Tau cross, or the letter T, and that kind of means completion, one of its definitions, which is when you're creating your world, at each level of the tree of life, you have to balance those opposite paths and those opposite spheres. So you balance your logical mind with your intuitive mind, or from your point of view, your logical mind with your intuitive mind, and here's your Malkuth down here. The balance point is an integrated model of your world. Hence the path is called the world. And it connects your physical world with the astral world. And the astral world is called the foundation. The Yesod translated means foundation, because it is what your physical world stands on. So a house stands on a foundation. Now if you turn the tree of life upside down, your Malkuth is your kingdom. It's now on top, and immediately below it is the foundation. And the rest of all this stuff that, from the perspective down here in Malkuth, is behind the veil. It's hidden. It's like the iceberg now, right? Your Malkuth is on top, and your Yesod is kind of floating half in and half out of the water, and everything else is below the surface. Think of it that way as an analogy. That's the conscious mind versus all the subconscious mind. Right? So that's how you might want to think of it. So with Malkuth there, whatever you create, let's go over here for just a moment. Nitsak, remember, is the causal plane. So in order for something to happen down here in Malkuth, it needed a precipitating cause, and the precipitating causes are formed here. Then they come over here and they get logically integrated, and then you build them energetically in Yesod, in the astral world. And the astral world, by the way, also takes direct inputs from both Hod and Nitzak. So this path here is the path of Resh, which means the sun, and in Tarot, this is called the sun. So this is the sun, that male active principle of bringing the mind into what you create in your foundation. This path is called Zadi, which means a fish hook, which is kind of like you cast out and pull something in. And in Tarot, it's called the star, or stars is the actual correct term. It should be plural. So this is where you're reaching up into the celestial realms and pulling things in, and then you make whatever it is up here first. You want to build a doghouse, you build it here first. You know, somebody draws the plans and you download them off the internet, or you've seen enough dog houses that you just go out to the workshop and you start cutting boards and nail them together, and you create a doghouse. But you created it here first. You want to create a new life, you create it here first. You want to create a new job, you create it here first, using inputs from here and here. And the other input into Yesod from above is this path that runs up to Tifereth. Tifereth is the heart center. This is your heart's desire, provides an input, and then that pulls in from your intuitive mind and your logical mind, and you create something, and then boom.
Oops. He stabbed it.
The knife works, by the way. This is a great knife. I got it last year and I love it. Fits my hand. It's heavy, it's solid, and I could do some damage with this. Sorry, Malkuth. What this is there's pieces of paper that we ran through the printer that have been glued on into each of our spheres on this map, and I almost started to take that off. So this path here then, from your foundation, you're integrating these higher principles, and then you're bringing that down as a balance between your logical mind, your intuitive mind, to make an integrated world. And so this is so your record keeping that I want you to do, let's go back over here. The record keeping you do on the path of the world is very results oriented. So first thing you need to do is you need to assess your world. What does your world consist of? Where do you live? What do you eat? Who are you married to, or who are you having sex with? Do you want to have sex with someone? What is your job? What kind of car do you drive? What kind of clothes do you wear? What kind of music do you listen to? What kind of music do you play? How good are you at chess? How good are you at mahjong? How good are you at shooting weapons? How good are you at martial arts? How susceptible are you to the political movements in the country right now? That affects pretty much all three paths. There's an emotional response, a logical response. Most people analyze politics incompletely. They have a preconceived notion and they force fit everything to their preconceived notion.
Same with religion.
Same with religion. And same with sex, right?
Yeah.
Those are the three things you're not supposed to talk about in polite company, is religion, politics, and sex. And as a result, our society is really messed up when it comes to religion, politics, and sex. So the way you get past that as a society is we have to throw out the taboos that we don't talk about that, any of those three, and we have to start talking about all of them. Mm-hmm. All three need to become fair game for dinner table conversation with everybody. Right? Go to a dinner party. Hey, let's talk about sex. Yeah, let's do it. Because if we don't talk about it, we're going to keep having knee-jerk reactions about all the taboos. You let the woman get on top? Oh my God! You don't do it doggy style? And in politics, why are we limiting ourselves to the idiots we have in the clown circus in Washington, D.C.? Religion. Why are we still killing each other over which version of the one God that runs the universe and what name we call it?
Yeah, still like the Crusades.
Yeah. Well, the Crusades had nothing to do with religion. Religion was the overlay used to justify it by playing on fears on both sides of that war. That's still going on, by the way. Yeah, the Crusades ended in 1200 or whatever it was. I can't remember when the last crusade was. It was about 1200. So about 800 years ago. But the war over the region and the territory on largely religious lines is still going on. We just call it something else. It's not the Crusades anymore. You know, it's the war over oil, or it's the war over the landing zones for the interplanetary beacons, or whatever it is. You know, but my point is, we need to be talking about it. Has anybody ever sat down and talked to a Muslim about their beliefs? I have.
I have.
Or a Hindu? Or somebody who practices Shinto. This last weekend I talked to somebody who is into the Norse pantheon and is an Odinist, he called himself.
Well, that must have been fascinating.
Oh, it was cool, yeah. It was like, great.
He could help you with the tree of life.
Maybe. You know? So, we need to talk about that. So that's my social commentary for tonight. But there's a lot of knee-jerk reactions for a lot of people on all three of those hot-button subjects. And so, whether that's first on your list to go through those three or wherever, you need to get to those three. Was that a...
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to the third path, the world.
Yeah.
Because you said some things about that, and then you took and ran with it and was, you know, talking about balancing it and everything. But just going back to, you basically said results. What else do we need to know about that path?
Okay, so thank you for that question. That was a good question. That's a ding ding. You first assess your world. So we're still on talking about step one. To assess your world. On all those things I rattled off a minute ago. Go back and watch the tape if you don't remember. And then you have to assess yourself to see, does this world, this integration world, the way it stands today, does this meet my requirements to assist me in accomplishing my true will?
No.
Well, it didn't, right, until you moved.
Right.
Now you're in a new place, and now you've got no excuses.
Right.
Right.
You've got no excuses. Your physical world, where you live, where you sleep, where you do your art, where you do your work, where you do your spiritual meditations, where you do your spiritual study, is totally conducive.
Mm-hmm.
Because you live alone in a beautiful place.
We got a message here that you have low disk space. You're running out of space on this PC, managed storage. So my,
Click that and make it go away. I know that. I need to sit down probably
Okay.
tomorrow and offload some things onto my portable hard drive. That's a system space, and it's probably doing that because we're recording to the disk.
Right.
So we won't be able to go too long tonight probably then. I'll just move all these videos off. They take up a lot of room. So that's what I mean is, you say, okay, I need to accomplish my true will. In order to figure out what my true will is, I need to be able to meditate. I need to be able to do my work. And I've got roommates screaming at me for following their rules. That's one of those WTF moments. So that integration path, the records you keep are, you start by going down everything you can think of about your current world. And then you have to fine tune it. Which one of those details of your world needs fixing? or changing or altering, or maybe it's been okay up till now, but now you're trying to upgrade. So, okay, my memory's running out. I need more memory, right? I better do that. I've been putting it off for a week, and now it's like, okay, I'm out of time. I got to go do it.
So this allows us to constantly assess our world and what's going on and how we can better it
Yes,
and how we can upgrade it more.
exactly.
I mean, even if things are great, you could rise up and do it better.
Even if there's things that are great, the one question you ask yourself is, when you wake up in the morning, am I still on Earth? Look outside, kind of like Groundhog Day. Darn it, I'm still here. I'm still in Puxatawny, and it's still Groundhog Day. I got to go do that news broadcast again, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're still on Earth. What does that mean? Anybody?
That we're still on Earth, what it means?
What does that mean?
That we haven't upgraded?
That we have time to fix things.
Partly on both. It means you haven't successfully completed your true will. Your reason for being here. You have a purpose here, and when you're done, you will know you're done because you will be given an opportunity. You want to leave now? And I'm like, hallelujah. But I've also been told I'm going to be here a long time. Because there's a lot of work to do, and I took on a big job. So if you're still here, you're not done. That means there's always going to be something else to do to finish your true will, and therefore there's probably always going to be something else you can do to upgrade. And so this self-assessment process. And by the way, I'm going to be doing this. I mean, I already do some of what I'm asking you to do. See, here's my list for tomorrow. None of the boxes are filled in because
You haven't done them yet.
it's not
It's not
tomorrow
time.
yet, and I haven't done them yet. So I'm going to be switching to a different notebook. I'm going to get one of those composition books. Where the
Oh,
pages
yeah.
don't... See, this one I thought was going to work because I like the page size, but it's got these silly pre-perforated things
Yeah.
that tear off if you sneeze at it or look
Oh.
at it wrong. And it's like, that doesn't help me.
Doesn't this process help push ourselves more?
I hope.
And also to be aware of what's going on instead of like a walking unconscious.
The goal is for you to be proactive rather than reactive. In everything. So yeah, I'm hoping that's what the effect is going to be, especially on those of you who are my formal students. And everybody else who's watching, and probably half of you watching aren't my formal students, feel free to upgrade your life. We need more people out there upgrading their lives in a safe and sane manner. Remember the old term safe and sane from fireworks?
Mm-hmm.
They were neither safe nor sane.
Right.
This is your brain on drugs. This is your brain on
This
drugs.
is your finger on safe and sane fireworks. Yeah. So anyway, that's the plan, is you're going to upgrade your life. We talked about all that. So anyway, I did want to say a little bit more about this program. You're trying to uncover your programming, find out where it needs to be tweaked, and then you tweak it, okay? Because you wrote the programming to begin with. You're the one who processed all the inputs from the time you were an infant and in the society that you chose to be born into. And you've created the way you react. You're the one who programmed yourself. And sure, just like that Stop It skit that I talk about with Bob Newhart. Anybody online who doesn't know what I'm talking about, there's a skit you can find. It's from Mad TV, where Bob Newhart, who's an actor who played a psychologist on a TV show, they did a skit called Stop It. And go watch it. It's fun. So You're the ones who ultimately have to change. You wrote it. We don't care about your mother, your childhood, your astrological forecast, because you picked your astrological forecast before you came in, right? We don't care about your dreams because you're the ones writing your dreams too. Ultimately, to change your life, to change your programming, you have to do it.
Garbage in, garbage out, programming term.
You want it, that is a programming term. So if you want to change things, you want to fix things, it's the ball's in your court. Is that a question?
Yeah, well, or comment. So often when we're looking at triggers, we need to remember that we might be 100% correct and right in our position. But if we lose control,
Mm-hmm.
then we have something to work on.
Right.
So it doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong in a particular situation. It's whether you are reacting subconsciously to these
Right.
Good.
these triggers.
Good point.
Is it your animal mind, the emotions of the machine making the reaction, or are you consciously creating that? I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, most of you probably know that, and just north of Seattle, and there was a man for many years, I think he's passed away now, because he was older than my dad at the time, named Dick Erickson. Dick Erickson was famous for several things. Most prominently and publicly, he was famous for being the crew coach, the boat rowing the boats at the University of Washington. And he was also a scoutmaster, and I knew him through Boy Scouting, and I got to know him pretty well. The year I was, I think it was 16 or 15 or something like that, I was a camp counselor at a Boy Scout camp, and he brought his Boy Scout troop, and I got to know him pretty well. I was assigned to work with his troop. Really nice guy. Really liked him. Anyway, he was famous for his crew teams winning not just national championships, but twice they went to the world championships and won the world. And this is like the one school, University of Washington, competing against national teams from all over the world and kicking their butts.
That's impressive.
Yeah. So Washington over the years, there's songs written about how good their crew teams are. And like they say, it ain't bragging if you can do it. But he was famous for being absolutely ruthlessly intense with his athletes and getting their attention. And they're out rowing the boat, and he's in the motorboat going alongside. And one day they weren't performing well, and so he starts screaming. They're sitting there in their boats, like 5 boats, and watching. And he's screaming at him with a megaphone, and he starts smashing things in the boat. And he just like smashes the windshield of the boat. And these things are expensive, right? Because oh man, Coach Erickson lost it. We better start rowing harder, right? Well, they went out that weekend and they won the race. But the very next day, the windshield was fixed. He had ordered the new windshield 2 weeks earlier. The whole thing was planned and staged, right? So was that an animal mind response?
No.
Or was that a cold, ruthless response? Because he was a ruthless Hode response on his part to stimulate an animal response on theirs.
Yeah.
I heard that story and I just laughed when I heard that story. It's like, how classic, right? He's staging an outrage moment planned weeks in ahead.
That's funny.
Yeah, he was a good guy. I like Dick Erickson. And
He
you
was
can't
a warrior.
argue with his success at all.
He's a warrior coach.
Yeah. So wherever you are, Dick, I salute you. So that's what we need to do, is we're going to start that. Let me see if there's anything else in here. No, we're going to do that maybe next time. So, okay, short list of announcements. Well, I really only have one, I guess. I'm going to talk about that other thing another time. The 22nd, Saturday the 22nd, is the level 4 redo. 1-day intensive here. It's $75 unless you pay by this Saturday. Some of you have paid, some of you haven't, some of you have told me you're going to come. If you pay by this Saturday, it's $60. Some of you watching online aren't level 4s, so get up to level 4 and then we can talk.
But you also have it online.
Yeah, I will be broadcasting it on Zoom only for those who are paid attendees. It won't be on this channel. Question.
And if you, in person, watching it, is there a way to get a hold of it?
I don't understand that.
Well, okay, you gotta put it online. Is there a way that I can look at the online to watch the exercises?
I'm not gonna, so you can come back later? No, I'm not gonna
Okay.
do that. Take notes.
Okay.
Any questions?
Let's see. At this point, we don't have any Kaiwa classes scheduled. So if somebody wants, you might say something about potentially having a level 4 in the fall. So anyone who wants to work for that, they need to get their level 3 and be ready.
Okay, thank you. Is it on you or me now?
It's still on you.
Okay, so what the lovely Bonia, aka Oria Luce, was saying is we do a lot of things based on the need of the students. The level 1s, level 2s, level 3s we've been doing less of. Doesn't Wadib have a level 2 coming up sometime soon? So if you're level 1 and you need a level 2 in the near future, go see Wadib.
I think it's March 7th, if I remember.
Ask
Yeah,
her.
we announced it last time, so just
Yeah, but I don't
contact
remember
her.
the date.
I know, contact her.
Contact Wadib. So we're very happy to teach Akadwa classes if there's a need. The way I know there's a need is you contact us. And you say, hey, I need this. Level 4. Is something on the kitchen burning or still turned on? The way you know you need it is you contact us. The level 4 class, it's called the Diaphanous Shell Intensive. And the history is those of us who are among the first people to get to level 4, since Coyote released the Akadwa in 2007, and of the first group of 4 who transitioned, I was actually the first to get to level 4 out of everybody who's ever gotten the Akadwa. We went through a hellacious process, many, many months of mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical agony as we transformed my bodies and all this stuff. The 4 of us who were the first 4, and for many years were the only level 4s, we all went through a version of that. By watching us do that, between the times he was laughing, Coyote was able to figure out the process and create a way of doing that instead of, let's say, 6 months or more, compressing it down to 1 week and doing it in a controlled manner in a way that you bypass a lot, if not most, of that agony. It's still intense. It's a
Thank
1
you.
week. You're welcome. You all owe me. And 3 other people. So I ran my first level 4 class a year ago last January. And some of you were in it. And there's a lot of people out there who either watch this live or are watching it on tape delay, and you know who you are, who are level 3s, and you may be desirous of level 4, and you may be in denial of the calling you're feeling from the Akadwa, because I don't want to do that, that's going to be intense and scary and bad. And
Sean.
I didn't say any names. She's his mother. He can deal with her. Olivia. Little frog in my throat there.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So I will offer a level 4, and I'm tentatively looking at late summer or early fall as the time to do that.
I like to retake it.
And anybody who has taken it and survived, to pass the level 4 intensive and get your level, you basically have to survive and not run away screaming.
It's the Mount Shasta version is Survivor Series.
Right. And that sounds funny, and all of those of us who survived, and I did it the hard way, we laugh at that a little bit, but I've been to a couple of Coyotes level 4s where not everybody survived. We had people running away screaming. So it's a serious deal, and if you're being called to higher work, and you resonate with the Akadwa, and the concept of the Toltec work for humanity and the consciousness of humanity and the transcendence of humanity into something that's the next step of our potential evolution, then you're being called, and it's time to take it seriously, because humanity and Earth are running out of time.
And it's your secret magical weapon that you're not using, and it could help you.
Yeah.
And you can use the what from the level 4 every day of your life, doing the most mundane to the most
Right.
spiritual or whatever you want to.
So if you have the Akadwa at a level 1 or a 2, and you're thinking, gee, maybe late summer or early fall, yeah, I want to be there, but I'm still only a level 2, then you need to get your level 3. So the way you get ready for your level 4 is you've got to get a level 3. So I will schedule a level 3 class as soon as I have people saying, yeah, I want my level 3 so I can get ready for level 4. And if you are a level 3 and you want to get ready to level 4, let me know, because it's driven by you, the student, and the need. And when I get, I need probably a minimum of half a dozen people to take a level 4 class intensive to do it. I won't do it for less than that. I need at least 6.
6, okay. I am putting in my request that it won't happen this summer. So it really needs to happen in fall, and I'm thinking more like October.
October tends to be a busy month for some of my other things, so
Right.
maybe late September
Okay.
might work, but that's the ball. I don't want to push it into November.
Okay. All right.
So September, October timeframe, that's what I'm looking at. And it's up to you who are observing to say, okay, it's time, I'm going to step up and answer the call.
So Moadib says that her level 1 class is on March 7th.
Okay, cool.
and that she wants to do the level 4 again, and Little Eagle wants to do it again,
That's
and
2.
Pamela says that she needs a level 2. So contact us.
Contact us, Pamela, and we can take care of that post haste. If you send me an email, we can get it done this week because I do level 2s remotely. In fact, what day is today?
Today's the 10th, which is a
Monday. So yeah, I did a level 3 this morning remotely for someone,
in France.
and she's in France.
Nice.
Yeah. So I now have level 3s in France and Australia.
Nice.
That I've done. I have people who I've given level 1s or 2s to in China and Japan and Canada and England.
Didn't the guy in England get the level 3?
He went on and got level 3, but he went through somebody else.
Oh, okay.
It was, I
Yeah.
don't know, scheduling or what have you. So there is a level 3 in England. So those of you who are watching in Great Britain, contact the guy in England who has his level 3.
And Patty says she's in for the level 4.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
She's online. I never
Yep.
heard she was online.
Well, she just started talking lately.
Okay.
All
So
right. All right.
Alright.
So I don't see any questions that have come through. So
we're going to end. Thank you all for being here and engaging and participating. And remember the Akadua oath. And people always focus on using it for the benefit of all beings everywhere, which means don't do evil with it. But most importantly all, with that as the background, use it. Use the Akadua. And for the benefit of all beings. But if you're not using it, get started. Use it. All right. Do good. Avoid evil. Nanu nanu.
no.